Advanced filtering and select statements out of the book Oracle PL SQL in 10 minutes. Just a quick reminder, we're using Application Express to come in where we've gone in and loaded the sample code that's in the book. We uploaded the scripts. The scripts went in and created the tables. And the tables are listed here, vendor products that we're working with. The create script went in and created the tables. The populate script went in and created the data that's in the tables, and we're using the SQL commands to go in and execute the examples that are provided in the book. So if we continue reading on Chapter 7, basically what we're doing is modifying the where statement to either look for or not look for stuff that's in a table. So in this example, we're trying to go in and select a vendor ID that sells things for less than $10. So we're looking for vendor 103 and a price of less than $10. And we're returning the product ID, the product price, and the product name. Notice that the vendor ID isn't something we're returning, but it's something we're using as part of the search criteria. And say I want the most expensive item on the top of the list, and that'll come in and show us everything that's $10 and down from that vendor. And we did a sort of pricing and not a descending sort of pricing and an ascending sort of the products. So if we wanted to do reverse that, where we have descending order of the product names as well, we can do that. We just have to go in and say, here's how we order by specifically. Now we can go in and see products sold by vendor 1002 or 1003. And we get a list of the combined products from those two vendors. We can go in and say, show us the products by those vendors that are greater than $10. And it should return a much smaller list, so things like fuses and slings should drop out of this query. I'm sorry, should stay in the query, but all of the other things drop out because we're looking for something less than or equal to, or greater than or equal to. Right. Okay, so the select statement here is rather confusing, which is why I was a little confused. So we do have a couple items here that are less than $10, because basically what we're doing is all of the products from vendor 102 or the products from vendor 103 and products greater than $10. Now, if we really want it to be prices less than, we have to put parentheses around that says I want products from vendor 102 or 103, and I want products greater than $10 from all of them, as opposed to just from vendor 103. What previously was happening was the parentheses didn't go around those two as we logically thought it would be, but by default it went around these because that's the order in which it was parsed. So it looked for anything where vendor 102 and include products from vendor 103 that are greater than $10. So by putting the parentheses in the right place, we actually get the results we were kind of expecting. It's an example of poorly formed SQL statement when I've got a chain and you can interpret it two different ways based on how you look at it. Now the in statement is similar to the where statement, where I'm saying vendor ID is 102 or 103, and then I'm going to order by product name. Which is basically the same as saying where vendor ID equal 102 or vendor ID equal 103. Now the difference is one gives you an optimization in the database where I have the in. The database knows how to optimize this a little bit better than this down here because this is more of a generic phrase. I can also do a not in. Now in Chapter 8 we're going to expand our select statement a little bit in that we can do partial string queries where I'm going to go in and say something is a substring, and that's done with a like command. So in this example we're looking for something that begins with jet and then is a wildcard after the fact. So we should get back two values. One is jetpack 1000, the other is jetpack 2000. Now notice if we change this a little bit and say we're looking for something that ends in jet, we should get no responses because nothing ends in jet. But if we did, I want something that ends in 000, we should get back both of those values. Or something that contains, there might be a space at the end there. And that's exactly what happened. There's a space character back there, so I have to go in and specifically look at the formatting of the data. And the example they give in the book is we're specifically going to look for anvils. An anvil is in the middle of the name. So I put the delimiters on both sides and I get back the answer. Now if I drop out the second percent, it probably won't work because of the space delimiter on the end. But if I put it in, it actually sees it. And that has to do with the formatting of the data and the way the data is stored in the database. So the trailing spaces is what would bid us there, and that's the example of what we're looking for. So I can also go in and look for a wildcard delimiter where I've just got one character that I'm trying to insert and say here's what I'm trying to delimit. So notice the 0.5 failed, whereas if I come in and say I want a second delimiter there, it'll pull up the 0.5, but it won't pull up the 1. If I want to pull up all of them, I actually have to use the percent that says 1 or 2 characters. The other way of doing it is like we showed.